Coming up out of Hoge Jahns, a week into training camp, we're going to go through the biggest storylines, what we're seeing so far. Hoge Jahns starts right now. Welcome in, Hoge Jahns, back with you as training camp rolls into week 2 already. This is what happens, starts to move along quickly. What's up, Johnsy?
5 days in, 1 day of pads in the heat and humidity.
Yeah, today was a tough one. There were no comments made by anybody that you weren't there.
I'm sure it was overflowing.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that I've reached the point where my whereabouts are of the utmost concern for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Especially among, the Brad Biggses of the world.
Makes me feel good.
Pat Finleys and Kevin Fishmans. Yeah. People are just worried about you. They want to see you.
Good to feel loved.
Yes. But fortunately for our viewers and listeners, you are still here. You are here to do this episode of Hoge Jahns as we jump right in, and since we're not daily like CHGO Bears, and you can always check out our daily practice videos over there on CHGO. Gives us a little bit of opportunity to zoom out a little bit. It's been a few days since we did an episode. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the Ryan Poles episode. I appreciate the Bears making that happen again, and Ryan inviting us into his office. It's always good to catch up with him, whether it's early in training camp, later in training camp. This year just happened to be in the first couple days, so that was good. If you happen to miss it, go back and check it out. Make sure you're subscribed to the Hoge Jahns YouTube channel. We're going to continue to make this thing take off, of course, with our producer Katie Langen and Stephen Nicholas, who's been helping out as we move over to CHGO. And then, of course, you should be subscribed to the podcast as well. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, we are everywhere. And we got the great Die Hard deal. Don't miss Johnsy's content. There's 3 more days, I believe, that you can
get on that. It's going to expire soon. So if you want that T-shirt, if you want that sweet-looking hat for Branded Bills, better get on it. I got a great story coming up later this week, too, on Ben Johnson's coaching style, which we're going to discuss here in a little bit as well.
Yeah, so you can scan that QR code if you're watching on YouTube, or go to HoganJahns.com. That'll get you right to that Die Hard offer, too. It's an introductory offer. We're going to have more merch in the future, but that is the only time you're going to be able to get the intro offer that comes with the hat or the shirt, and then that price as well to become a diehard. All right, so top storylines from Bears training camp so far, and Johnsy, that's where you want to start with Ben Johnson and his coaching style. What we've seen so far in camp.
It's also what we've seen so far, starting all the way in the spring, just the way he carries himself on the practice field, whether it's yelling at certain players, keeping his players accountable, just his mannerisms, this hard, tenacious coaching style, which I find refreshing in a sense, because I can't recall, we're always guilty of this, Adam, like comparing, contrasting coaches from previous regimes, but damn it, we've covered so many. So this is what we do. We have a lot of experience doing this. I can't recall questions, stories about a previous coach's coaching style to this extent. Can you? Like Matt Nagy had his swag. Like Matt Eberflus brought back the hits principle that Rod Marinelli and Lovie Smith made famous. But just the way that Ben Johnson is carrying himself, this accountability, this obsession of details, I can't recall a similar storyline playing out at Hallis Hall in my time covering them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always important the first season with the new coach. You're learning all this stuff, but I think the one thing that we're probably being more intentional about ourselves is just trying to really figure out what's sticking, what's actually being put in action versus what's just been talked about. Because Ben Johnson's certainly not the first coach to come in here and talk about accountability. That's just the truth. And or finding an identity or implementing an identity. The problem, though, with the last coach was that accountability was never actually implemented. It was talked about, it wasn't implemented. And then with Matt Nagy, it was more identity. We talked about identity endlessly. And all of a sudden you're in year 3 and he's at the podium going, we're still searching for our identity. And I'm not here to run the I formation and all this stuff. So I think what we're encouraged about this time around as we try to check ourselves too, to make sure that we're not just sort of buying into another guy who's talking, is that we've seen evidence of the accountability on the practice field pretty much on a daily basis. And Ben was getting after Caleb Williams again today. Sort of been in a different manner, but I did notice at one point, Johns, when they were, I think it was when they got into a special teams period and then the quarterbacks kind of went back over to the other field. Ben was over there, and Ben's been involved in special teams quite a bit too. So this was a little bit different than he went over there, I thought today, at least from what I've seen. And you could just tell him sort of demonstratively coaching him up on, you could see him kind of doing this with his arms, like should have run this angle or like whatever. So we're seeing that on a daily basis. And then when it comes to the identity part, you know, I just think we know this about that. Like, this is the one thing we know about Ben already from the offensive side of things, in that he's not going to be afraid to run the ball 30 times this week and then maybe throw the ball 30 times the next week. He's talked about it, about how every game is its own entity and how you got to treat it, that game plan every single week. We talked about the Belichick stuff last week that he brought up. So I think that's a little bit more of talk that you trust before even going into this to the season.
But then you take Vic Fangio's advice and you do your research. You talk to people who previously played for Ben Johnson, or you talk to coaches who have worked with Ben Johnson, and they describe someone that they're describing what we're seeing right now. Someone who gets after it, someone who's watching everything his players do on and off the field, who's watching the most minute of details in what they're doing, whether it's footwork or where their eyes are. Well, there's so many layers to so many different positions you can go with that, like hand placement with the offensive lineman. And this is who Ben Johnson is. This is what he does. This is how he likes to coach, and this is the way it's always been. If anything, it's become, I don't know, call it greater in strength as he's moved up in his roles, going from an assistant coach to a position coach, an offensive coordinator, to obviously the head coach of the Bears. Everything is now magnified. He's got more ears tuned into what he's saying, not only on the practice field, but off the field when he's making his speeches and he's presenting things to his entire team. So I don't think we're making too much of this. We've covered a lot of different regimes, and it's funny. You mentioned like Matt Nagy finding his identity in year 3. I always think of Mark Trestman in year 2 when that came up as well. And he's basically, I remember him basically saying, we don't know what we are or what we do.
Yeah.
And Ben Johnson, I think by keeping himself out of like head coaching circles or like off the circuit for a little bit, like knows what he wants to be, knows what he wants to do and how he wants to coach. That's not an underrated fact. I think a lot of coaches like jump at jobs before they're even ready. I think Ben Johnson, by removing himself from the coaching cycle like a year ago, like knows he's ready, knows what he wants to do now that he's in charge of the Bears.
Well, and he's also not running it somebody else's system. He's not trying to run Andy Reid's system with Chicago Bears players. He's built this system himself, and he's purposely made it in a way that it can be adapted to certain personnel. And he said that he's going to sort of redo it on the fly here with what he's got this year. And we're literally seeing that as they throw the fire hose at Caleb Williams and try to figure out what he can and cannot handle.
We haven't talked about this, just how candid he is about like the carryover of last year, how there's like literally none coming over from last year and how everything done last year. Well, experience, there's always value in it, right? Going through the entire season, staying healthy, going through, taking care of your body, going through meetings. There's always value in that. but I appreciate him being candid and saying there's like literally no carryover from what we're trying to do as opposed to what was installed last year. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too. Now, if I'm gonna bring up one thing, and I wanted to give this like basically a weekend of camp, especially once we finally got a padded practice today too, to sort of react to, because you knew practice would change a little bit with the pads going on. I don't think this rises to the level necessarily of red flag, and I do think there's a valid excuse that I'll bring up here. But if I have one little minor quibble so far, maybe minor concern, these practices don't seem all that different to me.
What do you mean?
Just
like every
the way they're structured, the way they're the intensity level, and maybe today it's just fresh in my mind because it was such a hot day. Maybe they gave them a little bit more time in between drills and stuff to keep them safe. That's all possible. And I also, and the excuse I was going to bring up that I think is fair is they have cut down so much on the practice time, and there's so like you took a day off. Well, not only do you have a mandated day off you had to take, but also the next practice you come back after that day off, you're not allowed to go 2.5 hours. It has to be this amount of time. Like there's so many rules now that I do think it makes it hard for the coaches to fit everything in. But I just was sitting there. I was actually standing there with Sylvie today at practice, and I was like, yeah, the one thing is like, I don't know. Maybe it's just fatigue of my own, but it just seems like the same training camp practices I've been covering every year. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing or not. It just is what it is from what I've seen so far.
I think I always take note of like the different drills like position coaches have. Like Antoine Randall L's drills are a lot different from the previous regimes. I remember Jody Camillus brought out the giant medicine balls for his special teams drills to help with blocking assignments, just having a moving target. I haven't seen them since. Right? I don't think I've seen. Hightower doesn't use them. Like the enemy's drills are definitely a bit more intense than previous running backs were, or he's just on top of them. He's screaming. Like I always take note of those, but I guess I'm wondering what you're looking for. Like I want to see when they really go, when the contact really happens. I think in my coverage, in my history of covering this team, I've always looked forward to that day when you have that one period where it's fully live and you're bringing the running backs down to the ground.
Well, my understanding is they can't do that yet. I still think that there's a few days away from when they're legally within the CBA allowed to do that.
And you know what? Like, maybe it's just the CBA limits you so much that this is just what NFL practices are.
That's what I think it is, more than anything. I will say Eric Bieniemy was extra intense today because we were different vantage point. We were up in the stands in the end zone. So some days we've been like right next to him as he coaches. Today we were far away from him and yet could hear him loud as day. Like he was really getting after those guys. And then that's another thing. I think today is just first day of pads. There was a lot of run heavy stuff. I want to see it get a little. Let's ramp up the competition a little bit. I guess is what I'm getting at. So we'll see if that gets there in the next couple days.
You know, it's one thing that I've seen less and less of, like one-on-one drills. Whether it's blocking, I'm talking all the way to the extent of like running backs picking up, like linebackers and stuff, and even just straightforward one-on-one drills between the receivers and defensive backs. I feel like you get one day of that. And that's it. Like in terms of full pads, and it's intense, and they're really going at it. I can only recall one day over the past, 5 or 6 years where it felt notable, and it was the tight ends when Jimmy Graham arrived and him and Cole Kmet were beating up the Bears linebackers for a day in the red zone. That's the only day I can really remember where one-on-ones felt notable. Other than that, I feel like the extent of them has significantly decreased as opposed to what we used to cover in Bourbonnais, where you saw him almost every single day.
Yeah, we did see him today. Although one of the sessions was more like a 2-on-1. It was like the offensive lineman double teaming the D lineman. And then later they did come back with more traditional 1-on-1 battles. But Yeah, to your point about like blitz pickup or tight ends, running backs versus linebackers, those are always fun. It's one of the reasons why I some of the most fun practices you can actually find are the Senior Bowl practices because they don't have to go by CBA rules.
The whole thing's about competition too.
And they get NFL coaching staffs coaching that. And these guys are like, oh, we don't have any rules. Let's get after it. And they're not our players. You know, you
not yet.
You take away a lot of the risk factor and the rules, and it's like, oh, that's what practices used to look like in the NFL. So yeah, we've come a long way from that, and it's a lot of it's out of their hands at this point, which is understandable. We need to take a quick time out before we get to our next talking point, our next storyline. But we got plenty more coming up here on Hoge Jahns, so stick with us. Empire Today is where you need to go for your flooring. Just like your favorite team needs a home field advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get exactly that because Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day, not other things. We've all been to those big box stores. You go through all those aisles and you're somehow hauling all those materials home. You're looking for an installer yourself and coordinating everything. And that's not what you want to do. This is why Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor because they live and breathe flooring. They're going to be with you every step of the way. They're going to pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space with your own furniture in your own house. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code CHGO. Yep, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details. Also, you know it. It's been very hot. I hope your air conditioning at your home has been up to the challenge. And if it isn't, and even if it is, you want to get it checked out, you should be calling Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. They've been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Now is the time to get your AC checked out. Four Seasons experts are ready to help you with AC installation, maintenance, and repair. You could schedule your Four Seasons AC tune-up today. You'll save $50 and enjoy a 1-year no-breakdown guarantee. Or if you need to go all in for a new unit, you could save up to $4,000 on new comfort systems with Four Seasons. Your trusted local experts are Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. All right, Johnsy, we talked about Ben Johnson's coaching style. How about Dennis Allen? What has stood out to you so far?
How about all the blitzes he's calling every single snap, just different personnel groupings. There was a day, like how often have you seen like dime packages practice?
Yeah, you made note of that
immediately. Like I can't tell you how often I've noticed
it was 7-on-7, right?
Yeah. So to see, well, number one with Dennis Allen, I think the blitzing stands out to me. Number two, there was a moment early on in spring where he was just as hard as on his defensive players as we've seen Ben Johnson on his offensive players, where he's screaming, he's cursing, he's on top of these guys that it's not good enough. Hearing his players, just in terms of the buy-in they have and what he's trying to do, like I like hearing that. I like hearing them describe how difficult it is because they want to make it difficult on opposing offenses. I like the diversity of scheme and what they're trying to do to attack opposing offenses. So Dennis Allen's ability to connect with his own players, I think, is almost an underrated storyline right now in camp.
Yeah, and I feel like they picked it up faster on defense than offense. And maybe that's just defensive mentality. It's probably a little bit easier, but just the players kind of meeting the coach where he wants him to be from the standard aspect of things. And I think that was, there's maybe a little bit of a feeling out process early on. But, the interesting thing, too, is, though, as Matt Eberflus was building this defense the last few seasons, the personality of the players that they were adding and acquiring, and I'm talking both mentality and skill set wise, almost seem like a better fit for Dennis Allen's scheme. You know what I mean? Like there's not, when they made this move, and the base of it is mostly similar, but the mentality behind it and kind of what's dialed up behind the 4-3 base is somewhat different, significantly different, actually, I'd say at this point from what we've learned. But like, just you can name almost any player on the defense. It's like Jaquan Brisker, highly energetic guy, like great. This is perfect for him. Jalen Johnson, even Tyreek Stevenson, I think fits from the way the corners Dennis Allen wants his corners to look like and be. Like, it's just, there's a lot of it that carries over. Montez Sweat's already a big, tall, long guy, which is what Dennis Allen wants. So there were some little tweaks here and there, but this wasn't like the type of overhaul that takes 2 or 3 seasons to get to. It was like, oh, we just got to sign these guys, draft these guys, and we're good.
Yeah, and a lot of them are already on the roster, players that I could work with.
Right.
I've enjoyed taking note of how much Tyreek Stevenson is traveling around, because they're playing this man coverage where it's, well, again, intense. It's in your face. So to see Tyreek Stevenson not be limited to one side of the football, one side of the field, that's cool to see. That's cool to see him traveling to maybe inside the slot to defend a receiver.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the reality is if you're going to let Jalen Johnson do that, and they've already talked about how they're going to, then all the corners need to be able to do it too. I mean, whether you're traveling with the number 1 or the number 2 or the number 3, like now everybody has to be on the same page when that's happening.
To hear Roma Dunze kind of describe it as well, like how they're being challenged on every single snap. It's not the soft zone coverage. They're not trying to confuse you. You know what's going to happen. They're here to compete with you. They're in front of you. They're going to be physical with you at the line of scrimmage. They're going to make you earn every yard. Now, they could suffer the consequences for that, and I think we've seen some plays where the Bears' offense has been able to beat the defense in that type of coverage, but we've also seen numerous examples where that coverage and those blitzes work together extremely well, and Caleb Williams would get sacked, or the whistle would be blown because Kevin Byard's in his face, or Kyler Gordon's already racing by him and leaving the field because he got in the backfield so fast. I love seeing that. I love attacking offenses that way. I understand the value of the cover 2, and I know everything Eberflus did, it wasn't exactly like what Lovie Smith did. There's always some diversity in scheme and whatnot. But this, in terms of what they're trying to build, like identity-wise, across the board, aggressive, intense, in your face, because that's the way I want to be on offense. You're seeing it on defense too, and it starts with Dennis Allen and his scheme.
But this is where, we can really get into the minutia of why the styles matter so much and what they can actually do for your offense too, because look, one of the problems with doing whatever difference were in Matt Eberflus and Lovie Smith from those, sort of the more old school Tampa 2 days, the basic thought was the same, though, in that we're going to be very sound in our assignments, and we're not going to give up the big plays. We're going to keep things in front of us, and over the course of a long drive, it's probably going to pay off for you to keep them out of the end zone, because what you're just trying to do is maybe at some point there's a negative play, or maybe finally they get frustrated and they try to force something in there, and then you turn the ball over. So a lot of those ideas make sense. One of the problems, though, and I do think we saw it come up the last few seasons, you're on the field a lot playing that way. You are on the field for a big portion of the game, and it becomes really hard for your offense to play ball control. And then certainly if your offense goes three and out, so it's a 12-play drive the defense just gave up, but it ended in a field goal. Great, it's only 3-0. But then your offense goes 3 and out, right back out there on the field. And maybe it's another 12-play drive, you hold them to a field goal or something, or maybe even turn it over when it's all said and done. But now the first quarter's over, and the offense has hardly been on the field, and you don't have enough plays. And I think we saw that way too many times. So one of the things I'm looking forward to, Johns, is I feel like with this more aggressive style of defense, they might give up some bigger plays here and there, and they might, there might be moments where oh man, that really sucks. Just give up a 60-yard touchdown or something like that. I think it's going to be more conducive, though, to 3 and outs and getting off the field faster and getting the ball back to Ben Johnson I'm not even saying Caleb Williams, getting the ball back to Ben Johnson, who's the head coach of the team, that's always going to have the big picture of the entire game at mind and how to play ball control with the ball actually in your possession instead of it being in the other team's possession and you just doing whatever you can to keep them out of the end zone.
You know, it's funny. You talk to Ben Johnson, and like Matty Buffalusa's scheme gave Ben Johnson problems because he wanted to be so explosive. He wanted to attack you and get those chunk plays, and how it forced him to be patient as a play caller, forced his quarterback to be patient just in terms of taking what the defense gives you, right? And how it became, I mean, the numbers are what they are. Ben Johnson's offense wasn't always explosive as it was against other defenses. But at the same time, the hiring of Dennis Allen is different. It's a break from that scheme, even though it gave him problems, because I think it fits with his identity. To your point, intensity, aggressiveness, in your face. That's what Dennis Allen wants to play, and that's how Ben Johnson wants his team overall. It's just a different mindset, too, as a defender when you know you're attacking and you know you're getting after somebody as opposed to.
Well, I think it's more fun.
Yes. Oh, it's so much fun. Like, I still got my doubts about the front four just in terms of what they could, provide pressure-wise, although Javon Dexter, I think, has had an outstanding training camp. But to see what these linebackers can do, you have the instincts of TJ Edwards and you have the freakish abilities of Tremaine Edmonds. They're going to be in the backfield. They're going to cause problems for quarterbacks.
Yeah. I remember, don't you remember when you just, played pickup football when you were younger? Wasn't the most fun job to just be, that guy in the back end of the defense that you didn't have to pick up anybody man-to-man. You just, sort of freelanced. You're that free safety. You can do whatever you want. Now, it's not quite to that level, but it's more fun playing football that way on defense.
And to that point, like when you're the quarterback and you're like, all right, down, ready, no blitz. You call it the no blitz. You know why? Because blitzing sucks when you're a quarterback. You have a lot of stuff to get through. You don't want to have anybody in your face. You don't want to diagnose things like that, on the snap.
I'm also guessing that they're going to enjoy not coming in on a Monday morning and seeing that they had 12 loafs when they, played pretty well and held the other team to 15 points or whatever. Oh, 12 loaves. What?
Yeah.
We hear those stories all the time.
Yeah. Here's the thing. They worked for Lovey because that team was winning and they had Hall of Fame players. But if you don't have the wins, you don't have Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Olin Kreutz, Devin Hester, the loafs, they're more debatable.
Yeah.
They're
more debatable, and they're you lose the credibility of it faster too when you're losing. By the way, Devin Hester on CHGO Bears today. Check out that interview in case you missed it. Go check out this. Go subscribe to CHGO Sports and find today's episode of CHGO Bears. And Devin Hester made an appearance. It was fun talking to him. All right, next on our list, Caleb Williams. What do you make of the early struggles from the quarterback?
This is why I appreciate the context of Ben Johnson. So today would have been, the fifth install that he went through?
Yeah.
Not much. Didn't go live speed, according to you guys there. So that's fine. It's hot. A lot to get through. I see this a few different ways, and I'm going to repeat myself a little bit. I'm on record writing that I think the early struggles, the early friction is a good thing. I think it's healthy. I think it's needed. I think he needs it specifically for his own development. But at the same time, I think we're all a bit scarred from covering previous quarterbacks where if you don't see it, you have your doubts whether you're ever going to see it. I'm not there with Caleb Williams. Probably won't get there at all. I hope not, because those can be painful stories to cover because we know what happens next. But I would have liked to seen a few more explosive plays. It's been good to see some touchdowns, like the red zone touchdown that Roma Dunze the other day was good, and there was a couple more before that the day earlier. So there's been some promising, encouraging moments that things are starting to click. But I do appreciate, I'm using this word a lot today, that Ben Johnson's willing to say that he's not playing as fast as he should. And a lot of it's because we're filling up his plate with all the stuff that he's got to handle mentally. And that's okay because they want it that way right now. So to that end, I think the struggles, the failure, It's part of the process.
Yeah, I think that that's all understandable. And even in the context of it's going to take him longer to put it all together than a Tyson Bagent and a Case Keenum that are going up against the backups. That what I'm seeing from Caleb right now is somebody who still looks just as comfortable and probably is running Ben Johnson stuff the way he wants it run out of shotgun. It's the under center stuff and the play action that comes off of that is so important to Ben Johnson and the system working that Caleb's really being tested on right now. And they're testing him to figure out what he can handle. What can you handle pre-snap? Everything that goes into it. How long do you need these play calls to be? What can you handle from a cadence standpoint? You know, that's cadence is a perfect example because it can be complicated, but it can be such a weapon. But if you can't do it, then it's almost something you have to bang all together. Like it's just
like they did last year.
Basically, yeah. And that's where I sometimes when I hear from fans sometimes, oh, it's just training camp or oh, it's just the off season. Yeah, except when you look at something like that last year where it was a story all off season about how much he was struggling with cadence and the offense was struggling with the cadences and they had to strip it down and basically not use it in the regular season. And so that's, to me, that is the big question. How much will Ben Johnson have to peel this back? Is it a little bit? That would be great. He's going to have to peel it back some. I mean, he's basically said that. We're throwing all this at him now to figure out what he can and cannot handle, and the whole offense too. And they will almost certainly peel that back. But it's how much? Because ideally, the more you can handle, the more complicated it is, but the harder it is for your opposing defenses to game plan for it. And the more you peel back and the more you simplify it, the less of an advantage that is for you then as an offense.
I wonder, like this is such a like an elongated process too. Getting like Jared Goff was a different point in his career when Ben Johnson took over in Detroit. He just was. He had played for Sean McVay for years. He was a Pro Bowler, took a team to the Super Bowl. Like, there was a resume there. There is so much for Caleb Williams to learn still. There just is. And this isn't just a year 2 thing. This is going to be a year 3, year 4 thing. Jim Miller, former Bears quarterback, would always used to say by like year 4 is when you should really know if a quarterback's good. But it's tough to play it out that way because so much is tied to the early success of these quarterbacks. The CBA kind of limits you because you got to pick up their 5th-year options. There's so much decision-making that has to go into this so early before these quarterbacks actually have enough time to learn. That's why the ones that have like instantaneous success, that's impressive. It really is. But like the Josh Allen trajectory, the Jalen Hurts trajectory, those could be painful processes to get through, but that's what some of these quarterbacks have to be afforded. They need that time. They need time to learn. And the difficult thing is nobody outside of buildings wants to wait for that development. But Here we are discussing it, and I get both sides of it. Eventually, you would hope that Ben Johnson finds a plan that for stuff that works for Caleb Williams, at least this season, and really starts to lead into that heavily as they get into the regular season.
Well, and that's why, and I think there'll be certain moments and topics that we talk about where we'll come back and say, that's why it's the importance of extending Ryan Poles and having that alignment from top to bottom, because you don't have this urgency from, your general manager versus your head coach that, we got to figure this out now because my butt's on the line because I drafted this guy. And sure, there's still a little bit of that, but knowing that both of these guys are under contract for a long time, it gives you a little bit more of an ability to be patient because, they're competitors. And at the same time, they're going to preach urgency that Got the Minnesota Vikings coming up here, you know, and you want to win that game without a doubt. But it's not like, oh, we're fired if we get off to an 0-5 start. You know what I mean? Like there can be more patience here with the quarterback that you're undoubtedly going to need.
Let's not forget that Ben Johnson's former team, the Detroit Lions, in their first year with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, went 3-13.
Yeah, it was bad. I think it started 0-10, right?
Yeah, not good. Not good. Ben Johnson becomes a play caller later that year. Then, when you start seeing the signs of it, they go 9-8 the next year. It could be a painful, patient process to get through, but
this roster is way beyond where that.
Yeah,
where
true.
You know,
true. Still tough division. Second hardest strength of schedule in the league right now. It's not easy sledding for the Bears this year.
All right. Well, anyway, that's where things are with Caleb. I will say this: last two practices have been better. Saturdays was a step in the right direction. Today was a step in the right direction. I thought. I have him down for the highest completion percentage he's had in any of the practices so far. We know the Bears are tracking that. Wasn't perfect, but it was better. And one of the completions that doesn't even count towards the completion percentage happened in one-on-ones on an absolutely gorgeous deep ball to DJ Moore, where he was blanketed in coverage by Tyreek Stevenson. It was good coverage, and it was just a ball put in the right spot on a go ball along the right sideline that DJ made a nice play on too, but it took a good pass with the right trajectory. So now I think if we just see a little bit more consistency starting to turn the corner when it comes to under center stuff, and these snaps got to get, I'm going to be right there with what Ben Johnson's. He get two more bad snaps today. Unfortunately, I couldn't see from our vantage point who it was on, but like if it was the center, if it was the quarterback or whatever, but yeah, I just know the ball was on the ground twice. They got to stop that. So, all right, let's take our last time out of the show. We'll come back, and we got two more storylines to go through before we get out of here on Hoge Jahns. All right, another time to tell you about that Die Hard offer. Take advantage of it. We've seen a lot of people chime in. Let Johnsy and I know that you are in, and we greatly appreciate it. But right now is the time to get the introductory Die Hard special. You can join now, get special edition merch that is only available through the 31st, the end of the month, coming up on Thursday. You can join for $36 for year one. That includes a limited edition Hoge Jahns t-shirt. Or you can go for $59 and get that awesome Branded Bills hat. It's a Hoge Jahns hat from Branded Bills. And plus you get all the great content Johnsy's been putting out. Some of it with me, our practice reports, 20% off all merch, 20% off all events as well. And speaking of events, you're going to want to come to our golf outing. So third annual Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill #2, the Ravines course. It's our annual scramble golf tournament right before football gets off, kickoff football season, playing golf with us. And here's what's cool that I can tell you about for the first time. You can book a twosome to play with Johnsy and myself. That's right. It's on the events page right now, allchgo.com. Go to our events page. Obviously, only one twosome can book this, but if you want to play with me and Johnsy at the event, you can sign up for it. Right now, it is available for you. We got limited edition CHGO tee gifts for every player. Of course, it's 18 holes with a cart, 4-person scramble, lunch, drinks, ceremony after the round. It's all there for you. And if you're a diehard, you get 20% off as well, just like all of our events. So go sign up right now, allchgo.com, our events page. All right, we'll keep it moving here. Next storyline, we were watching it closely. Colson Loveland and Luther Burden getting back on the field. Bears' first two draft picks. And by the way, technically their third. Turner was taken before Trapillo, right?
Correct. Trapillo was the final second-round pick.
Right. So Turner. So now 3 guys have been out. Going off of that. That's not great, but we're seeing a lot now in the last couple of days from Colson Loveland. We saw a little bit of Luther Burden this morning, Johnsy. He was out there for stretching and individuals, and I thought, looked pretty decent out there. And then he went back to being disappeared. And
he's ramping up, as they would say, Adam. He's ramping up.
Ramping.
Did you? I mean, it's still encouraging to see him out there.
Yeah. No,
we physically haven't seen him since the spring.
Yep. I mean, I was curious if he was still wearing number 87. He is.
Well, he's not gotten rid of it yet.
No.
It's time for that. You know he hates that number.
And Waddle was there today too, so maybe he's just doing an honor. Waddle.
Tommy.
Let's talk about Loveland first, because he has made a great first impression so far from walking, and it has been a small sample size so far, but it has been a very good small sample size. I mean, from the moment he got out there the other day, 7-on-7s, like, oh, here he goes, immediately gets open, catches a pass from Caleb Williams. Today, 2 more passes from Caleb Williams, both in team drills. One of them was a really good go up and get it catch. Maybe sailed on Caleb just a touch, but was still within the catch radius. And it was in an area where only Colson Loveland could go get it, and he did. And it looked very athletic and very natural and smooth. And it was like, if he's going to start doing those types of plays on Sunday, Bears are looking really good with this first-round pick.
His first catch in camp came from Tyson Bagent during a team drill on Saturday. And my initial reaction, like, whoa, who's that? Because he was open, and then he did a little move and open in the open field there. It was 84, and we were sitting next to each other. I go, dude, Colson Loveland, first catch of camp. It felt notable for him in that moment, but just in terms, like you said, first impressions, very good, beyond encouraging at this point. And you're seeing everything the Bears said. The separation, the athleticism to go up and get the ball. He's gotten bigger. He looks stronger. He's fast. He's going to be such a weapon for Ben Johnson in this offense. And we've already caught glimpses of the 2 tight end formations, the 12 personnel. You're seeing that. I love the idea of 12 personnel with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore on the field, DeAndre Swift in the backfield. Like that, it's a lot of weaponry. That is something to contend with for an opposing defense. There are some mismatch problems across the board there. Then you insert Zacchaeus or Luther Burden down the road as that slot receiver. The offensive weaponry that Ben Johnson has right now, like you could see it already being utilized just in terms of the spacing, the routes that these guys are running. It's there. There's signs of like the signs of potential offensive success. Another encouraging thing to see, and Loveland right now is a big part of it. Only 2 practices in, just in terms of his full participation.
Yeah, and I like his mentality too. We talked a lot about mentality earlier. And we saw this even during OTAs when he was you could just tell he was itching to get out there and do more. So today was a hot day. I saw plenty of, probably more than I would prefer to see. I know, easy for me to say, in the stands under the shaded canopy, on kneeling,
drinking your cold water with your
taking
towel.
long breaks, getting the sponge, ice cold sponge squeezed over their head and all this. Like Colson Loveland was just like any break in the action was doing so. Like, so during special teams, we're doing special teams. Yes, I was watching, I was. Where one of the times where it kind of like calmed down for a couple seconds, he's working that same wing slot type spot on punt. There he is working on his kickbacks all by himself, like over and over and over again, while, he's kind of off to the side, not in that group. Like, so now maybe he's just young, and he is super young, and he's just spry, and he's just, living it up in his first camp. But you could just tell he really cares, is my point of bringing that up. And whatever it is, whatever session of practice they're in, he's trying to get better. And that want to and that buy-in, that's a huge part of it. And that just tells me that whenever I see that from guys, you just get the impression that they're gonna get better as the rookie year goes along, and it feels like that trajectory early on with Colson Loveland, and that's a really good thing.
Well, you also have the confidence that Ben Johnson is going to put him in a position to have success.
Mm-hmm.
That he's going to find the right mismatches for him, or he's going to just simply be used better. Like there's a plan in place. They're not just taking the best player on the board; they took him with some purpose. Did you notice when we left practice on Saturday who the first person was in the jugs machine line?
Yeah, Colson Loveland.
Colson Loveland.
Yeah. I think I feel like I saw that one of the days earlier too. So yeah, now the question is that the same mentality Luther Burden has? I don't know. But I don't know. There's a lot we don't know about him yet because we haven't seen him. And I think some people are mistaking that for when we, talk about him in that light as like criticism. It's like we really don't know. He's been missing. It was good to see him out there at camp today, but then he didn't do anything in team and kind of lost track of him again. So I don't know, but I know he's talented. I know that. I know he's fast. I know if they can give him the ball in his hands, and all of a sudden you got two weapons in Colson Loveland and Luther Burden that could really help this offense. But I don't know, on July 28th, you got to feel better about where Loveland's at than Burden.
Well, his storyline, Burden's storyline within this storyline is the Bears hope that he's motivated by his fall in the draft. That's going to be part of his story. And whether or not he's able to prove everyone wrong, pass on him, you hope that's his motivation. You hope that's what drives him. And he said as much. But now you got to see it. You got to see those words put into action. He got his guaranteed contract. He hasn't practiced much. And we all sit here and it's all wait and see, really.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's all. I mean, I don't know what else we can say about that right now. I hope we get out there on the field tomorrow and he's out there again and does more. And then the same thing the day after that. And that there's no setbacks and then also there's no rest days and things like that. Yeah. Like let's see a little bit more every day.
I've gotten these questions and text messages from Bears readers and fans. It's like, we're scarred by Kevin White. This is Kevin White 2.0. I'm not going down that road. Kevin White was an extraordinary circumstance or story to begin with, just in terms of his selection at number 7 overall by Ryan Pace. This feels a bit different for everything I just said. One who was overdrafted and one who was probably underdrafted because he fell in the draft in Burden. But I know the injury thing scares everyone, but right now it still seems a bit different, to me at least, even though we haven't seen him do much.
It's also a different type of injury. And there's also, remember, going back to Kevin White, rumors and talk that some teams flagged him for that before the draft.
Yeah.
Even. So little bit of a different situation and still not great, though. You want to have your, your big second round draft pick that you're excited about out there on the field. So we'll see if that continues. All right. Last storyline, the left tackle competition, which I described on CHGO today, Johnsy, is still a toss-up in my mind.
It's purposely a toss-up too. To see them rotate as much as they have, like every day within the day, a certain rep here or there, or by period, they're testing these guys. They're giving them every opportunity they can to earn it or fail. I like it. Now things get interesting with the pads on. I don't know if you know who looked best today, but I want to see more of it down the road. I would think Ozzie Trapello still may have the inside track, but he's going to get beat a few times here in coming weeks as well. And you and I have talked about, like, Braxton Jones physically, it looks like he's got to catch up to, at least to his former self after the ankle surgery, because that left leg does not look the same as his right leg.
No, it doesn't. Honestly, they both look thin. So, that's part of what's interesting about this whole thing is I would honestly say right now, Ozzy Trapillo looks the part the most. And then probably Karan Amagaji after that. But Braxton Jones has the credentials and the starting experience. And I still think that they're giving him kind of the inside track to not lose it. But he's got to prove that he's healthy. And, I thought Ozzy held his own from what I watched today with the pads on. But there's a lot of evaluation still left in this thing. And it was good to see Karan Amagaji back out there on the practice field because he left early on Saturday, but he was good to go today.
The sense I get is this is going to be a long battle. Unless someone gets hurt and things change just in terms of those circumstances. But I could see this going all the way through. Well, definitely the 2 joint practices. I wouldn't be surprised if Ozzy Trapillo got some preseason snaps. And Karan Amagaji. Maybe not Braxton Jones because
someone's got to, because someone's got to play left tackle in those games.
Yeah. So give them a couple series. Give them some reps. It doesn't have to be much, but I imagine those are live reps that Ozzy Trapillo not only needs for his development, but that the Bears want to see if he can handle it, come the regular season. It's going to be a long, long battle.
Yeah, I imagine that's one that is not figured out until maybe even the 3rd preseason game.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's settled. What would that be? The Monday before the opener. Where this is our starting 5. This is what we're going with. And every snap this week is going to be for our starting left tackle. I feel like it's going to go that long. It's going to take the Bears that much time to decide who their best option is.
All right. Well, at least the pads are on for that now. So we've only had one day with pads. Tomorrow's another day. We get another opportunity to look at these guys and sort it all out. But that does really seem like a toss-up right now. All right. Well, those are your top storylines so far of training camp. A week in. Get the second week, which will culminate with Family Fest on Sunday. And then we get into a game week because it's first preseason week. After that, joint practice against the Dolphins.
To me, it's more joint practice week.
Yeah, well, that's what it sounds like. Someone's got to play in these games.
The Bears literally scheduled practices after both preseason games, the first 2 preseason
I know.
games.
Well, maybe Little Johns will be the starting left tackle in the games. Giant Johns against the Dolphins in practice, and then Little Johns.
Little Johns is not a left tackle. He's a feisty cover 2 cornerback.
There you go. Undersized one.
Well, high school.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy your time with your family, John Z.
Thanks, my friend.
We will be back on Wednesday. Oh, no, Thursday we're looking at, right? Yeah, we'll be back Thursday. Hoping to have another guest with us for Thursday's show. And by then we'll have a good look at everything that went down this chunk of 4 practices with the pads on and everything, and you'll be back for Thursday's practice too. So we'll have a good idea of what went down in week 2 of Bears training camp when we reconvene on Thursday's episode. Once again, don't miss out on that Die Hard deal. It is available for the next few days. What is the 31st? I can do math. Thursday is the 31st.
Thursday.
So you got between now and our next show to jump on in with the introductory Hoge Jahns offer. Scan that QR code on the screen or go to HoganJahns.com. It'll take you right to the landing page. Awesome t-shirt or the Branded Bills hat. You could also then, whichever one you don't get, you could turn around and use your brand new Die Hard discount, 20% off on all of our merch on the other item. That's what I would recommend doing. Then you get both. So
it's the veteran move right there, huh?
That's what it is. That's all there for you. Appreciate everybody subscribing. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the pod too. And we will be back on Thursday. We'll talk to you then.